This video and all of its contents, including any opinions expressed by the narrator, are strictly for entertainment purposes only and is not intended in any way as a substitute for professional services and consultation from a licensed therapist, doctor, attorney, or other licensed professional service provider. Each person must make their own life decisions, and those decisions are theirs. Welcome back to Find Your Alpha. We've got another great video for you this week, and you can see the title right on your screen. I ghosted my fiancée after she wanted to spend time with another couple. Let's get right into this story. First of all, the moral of this story: don't think you're going to swoop in and fix a broken woman, as many of these women are broken by choice. And I'll leave you with this message: don't be a white knight. Let's get into it. This story dates back to June of 2021. This guy starts off and he says, "Greetings, my fellow readers. I've been a follower of this blog for several years and never thought I'd be in a position where I'd need your advice. But here I am. I'm a 24-year-old male, call me Jeff, and my fiancée is a 22 female, call her Julie. I met Julie at the fast casual restaurant where she works as a cashier slash beverage server. From the first time I saw her, I thought she was super hot and would always make a point to talk to her. If she was busy with another customer, I would let people go in front of me so I could place my order with her. I soon started going there for lunch at least 2 to 3 times per week just to talk to her, but never mustered up the gumption to ask her out. Then one day, while she was ringing me out, she wrote her number on the back of my receipt and told me to call her that evening as she really likes talking to me. I had another story. I think this woman actually worked in a grocery store and she wrote her number on the back of a receipt. I did, and we talked for 2 hours straight. Before hanging up, I asked her out on an official dinner date. The date went great, and she opened up to me about her life. She explained that she was the mother of a 4-year-old boy. That's the first red flag in this story. She had the child at the beginning of her senior year in high school. According to her, the father was never in the child's life. Red flag number 2. She said he moved to Georgia after graduation, and she hasn't heard from him since. She also said she's dated a few other guys since, but had not gotten serious with any of them. Red flag number 3. She's dated a few guys. That means that she's had a few guys. And if she says a few, what does she mean by a few? Is she talking really 3? Or is she talking 6, 10? Who knows? But that's definitely a red flag. As for me, I had 2 girlfriends up to that point. After I found out about her child, I told her that I would like to continue being friends, but wouldn't be interested in anything more since she already had a child. Now, that was the appropriate thing to tell her, once finding out that she was a single mother. Okay, if you're not interested in dating single mothers, that's how you let them down easy. But I put this out there as a mistake because, as you're going to see, this guy is really serious about being just friends with her. And as I've said in other videos, heterosexual men and women cannot be just friends. She said she was fine with this, and we continued going out, meeting up once or twice a week just to hang out. See what I mean? Our relationship remained like this for nearly 2 months. 2 months! He was just friends with her like that, hanging out a couple times a week and not doing anything. Until one day she kissed me. From there, our next 3 dates got progressively more intense until we finally did the deed. It was awesome. And after that, I've been all in. Mistake number 2, my guy. You're all in on this woman. after your first time with her? What are you thinking? We then started spending every evening and weekend together. Mistake number 3. This guy is building his whole life around this woman, and he's just met her. After a couple weeks, she introduced me to her son. Call him Josh. He and I instantly clicked, and now he was joining us nearly every time we were together. Mistake, another mistake. Already he's diving into family life with this woman. Man alive, he went from, hey, I'm not interested, to all of a sudden now where he's totally bought in. Despite my initial objections, I fell in love with Julie and her son. Another mistake, he's falling in love immediately. When I told my parents about this situation, they both objected. They said while this Julie may be a great girl, I could do better, as I recently got my degree and had a good job now. My mother asked me if I really wanted to raise another man's child. Good question, Mom. I told her we were not at that point yet, but I would in the right situation. A few weeks later, I introduced my parents to Julie and Josh, and their opinions softened quite a bit. They thought Julie was very nice and immediately took a liking to Josh. Afterwards, they told me they approved of our relationship, but asked I be cautious, as I had only known her for a few months at that point. I told them that I would be taking things slow. Well, let's see how slow you take them. At the time, Julie had a roommate. Call her Jane. Jane worked with Julie at the restaurant and was engaged to be married. After Julie and I had been dating for 8 months, she told me Jane would like to move in with her fiancé now, but she couldn't afford the rent if Jane moved out. I thought about it and decided I would move in with Julie and Josh, which would enable Jane to move out. Another mistake this guy is making. Already he's jumping into living with this woman and her son. Big mistake. I'd been living with my parents my whole life, including during college, and thought it was time for me to spread my wings. It was time for you to spread your wings and fly, but not by moving in with this woman. Julie and Jane were all for it. Well, of course, Jane was. She wants to move out, and Julie was because now she's going to have you totally wrapped around her finger paying her bills. However, my parents were dead set against it. They told me it was my decision, but said I was making a mistake. I told them it's not a commitment, and I wouldn't be signing a lease, just taking over Jane's portion of the rent payment. At the time I moved in, there were 7 months remaining on the lease. Flash forward, and Julie, Josh, and I have been living together for nearly 5 months, and things have been great. I was madly in love with Julie, and little Josh and I had become very close. So close, he told me that he wished I was his dad. Although I believe Julie put him up to it, I know he really likes me. Another red flag. This woman is using her child as ammunition to get you roped in. That is not a good thing, folks. Not a good thing. And really, it's disgusting when you think about it. Like I said, everything was great. There was only one oddity that happened about 3 weeks ago. One night after Josh fell asleep, Julie and I were talking, and she told me that another one of her coworkers, call her Jamie, thought I was handsome and wanted to sleep with me. She then proceeded to say Jamie's husband wanted to sleep with her. I was totally shocked and appalled by this, and I put down here, this is a double red flag. Out of the blue, this woman who you're living with is telling you that, oh, by the way, one of my coworkers wants to sleep with you, and guess what? Her husband wants to sleep with me. I mean, what would you do if your girlfriend told you that? Crazy. I told Julie that while that's flattering, I have no interest whatsoever in sleeping with Jamie. and then asked her about Jamie's husband. This was the first she told me of this nonsense, and I was upset. Instead of answering me directly, Julie went on to ask me if I knew Jamie and her husband were bi and in an open relationship. So they play on both teams, this husband and wife. I said, no. How would I know that unless you told me? So that's another red flag here because, she's putting this out there like you know it, and she knows you don't know it. She's just using this to kind of goad you into, hopefully agreeing to a relationship with this couple. You can see what she's doing. She then asked me if I thought less of them, and I told her no. If that's what they want to do, they are adults. They can do whatever they want, but that lifestyle is not for me, and I hope it's not for you. Here's another mistake this guy made because he says, I hope it's not for you, instead of addressing it with her directly saying, hey, what's going on here? Are you into this? Do you want to do this? If you want to do this, well, guess what? It's not for me and we're breaking up. But instead he says, I hope it's not for you. Big mistake. We left the conversation there, but Julie's demeanor had me thinking about this off and on for the past few weeks. Another red flag. These red flags, he's got multiple red flags, but he didn't put them all together. He says, now let's jump to yesterday. Last night, actually, when everything hit the fan. Let's find out what happened last night. Julie's former roommate Jane and her longtime boyfriend got married. They had a civil ceremony at 5:30 p.m. and then a big reception right after. The reception was a blast and the party lingered into the wee hours of the morning. I generally don't drink and have a large SUV, so I was the designated driver for Julie and several of her friends. Let's find out what friends are going with her. The friends were Jamie, her husband, and another girl Julie works with, call her Jess, who went solo to the wedding. These three friends all like to drink and planned on getting drunk. Always watch who your girlfriend or wife is hanging out with because chances are she's very similar to them. Julie said she was only going to have 1 or 2 drinks max, as she didn't get drunk anymore. In fact, I had never seen her drink before last night. The night progressed and everyone was having fun, drinking and dancing. I noticed around 11:30 that Julie seemed a bit tipsy. This struck me as odd, as I only saw her nursing 2 drinks the entire night. I asked her if she had more to drink and she said no. It was now around 1 a.m. and the last of the party goers were clearing out, so I rounded up everyone who rode with me and got them in my vehicle. The first stop was the single girl, Jess, and I dropped her off. The next stop was Jamie and her husband's apartment. When I stopped the car, Julie said she had to pee. She got out and followed Jamie and her husband, call him Joe, up the stairs to their apartment while I sat with my vehicle running, thinking she'd be out in a few minutes. After sitting there for a good 10 to 20 minutes, I shut off the engine and headed in to see what was up. When I got to the door, I knocked and then entered. There standing in the living room was Julie along with both Jamie and Joe. They had obviously been talking and all three were visibly drunk. Without me saying a word, Julie tells me, let's sleep here tonight. I just awkwardly laughed and said, no, let's go. What she said next blew my mind, and listen to what she says to this guy. She said, they've got 2 bedrooms, you and Jamie can sleep together, and me and Joe can sleep together. Now, could you imagine if your girlfriend told you that? I would say, wait a minute, what are you talking about here? Could you repeat that for me? Okay, I thought that's what you said. Goodbye, you can sleep here all you want, but you and I are done, I'm out the door. That's what I would have done. Hearing this, I was in disbelief and my anger level was rising. Well, it should be rising. I again told her, let's go. Julie said, I'm not going anywhere and you can't make me. You can stay here with us or you can leave. Okay, again, I would have said, bye, I'm out of here. With that, I walked over and gently reached for her hand. She jerked it away and said, get off of me. After hearing that, I said, okay, turned and walked out the door. I was blazing angry at this point, and thoughts were flying through my head at warp speed. I drove to our apartment and considered going back over there to see what was going on. Then I thought, no, I no longer care what she's doing at this point. I'm done. Finally, this guy wakes up and does the right thing. I decided to pack all my personal belongings into my SUV and move out. So from about 1:45 to just before 3 a.m., I was going in and out of the apartment loading up my vehicle. I bet your neighbors probably thought you were robbing the place. I then drove to my parents' house and called them on the way to tell them I was coming over. They were not critical or judgmental, but my dad told me, son, it's best you found this out now. Amen, Dad. You are 100% correct. Now, if you like what you've heard so far, please hit that like button. That'll help this video get seen by people all over the planet. Now, let's get back to our story. The next morning, Julie called me at around 9:30 and I let it go to voicemail. She left me a message like nothing happened. All she said was, hi, babe, it's me. I hope you slept well. I fell asleep as soon as you left. Who believes that? Come get me as soon as you can. I love you. She called again 15 minutes later, and I again didn't answer. She then called again and again and again. Her voicemails became progressively more frantic. She also started texting me. In one of the texts, she wrote out that, Jamie just told me what an ASS I was to you last night. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean it. Please come get me. I didn't respond at all. Then, about an hour later, she left me another voicemail. She was now back at the apartment and saw I had moved out. In the message, I could sense her desperation, asking me why I moved out, saying she was drunk and she didn't mean anything she said. She also added that nothing happened between her and Joe or Jamie. She said, I know you're at your parents' place and I'm coming over. Hearing this, I didn't want her to cause a scene over here, so I sent her a text, a quick text. She immediately texted back and started begging me to please come back home. I simply replied, no, we are done. Good job, guy. She texted back, writing, this is just a big misunderstanding. I again replied, we are done. Good job sticking to your guns, mister. That's what you need to do. She then texted back saying she was coming over to my parents' house. I texted her back saying I was leaving for the day and wouldn't be there when she arrived. I told my parents she was coming over and said I was going to leave the house as I didn't want to see her and didn't want her causing a scene. At this point, I didn't know how she would react as she was a totally different person last night from the woman I had known. I left the house and went to a coffee shop to hang out until she left. I told my parents to call me if she shows. About a half hour later, my dad called and said Julie was there and left. He greeted her at the door and told her I wasn't home and he didn't know when I'd be back. She asked him if I had moved back in with them, and he acknowledged that I had. This all went down just a few hours ago, and I'm still here at the coffee shop typing out this long post. A very cathartic process, by the way. Now, I'm kind of having some second thoughts about my decision. Do you think I overreacted or was my decision appropriate? Your decision was appropriate, man. Julie has been an awesome partner until last night. Has she really? Is this something I'm going to look back on in 10 years and regret or celebrate? I think you're going to celebrate it, guy. Let me know your thoughts. I'd really like some confirmation of my actions at this point. Jeff. All right, Jeff, you're going to get some confirmations or some objections here because now we're going to look at a few responses from the community. And when I pull these responses, I always try to get 2 submitted by men and 2 responses submitted by women. And that's what we have here. So the first one is from a man. He says, "Dude, I hate to break it to you, but Julie has been doing Jamie and her husband for months." That's what I think too. As soon as I read this story, that's what I thought. The alcohol didn't cause her to lose control. The alcohol is true serum that brought out the real Julie. That's the thing about alcohol in these cheating situations. The women, if you notice, they will always say, "Oh, I did it because I was drunk. I was under the influence." No, alcohol is a truth serum. It brings out the real person, their real feelings. And I agree 100% with what this respondent said. This guy says, "Run, my man, and don't look back." Now we've got a response from a woman. She says, "Do you know if she actually did anything with Jamie and her husband last night? If they didn't do anything, then this was just a stupid mistake made while under the influence." See what I mean? "And you are overreacting. I think you should give her a chance to prove herself. And if she messes up again, just walk away. I wish you good luck." Here's another one from a woman. She says, "What Julie did was very questionable, but I wouldn't throw away a great relationship over one drunken mistake. When I used to drink, I did some things I wish I could take back and would never even consider doing such things today." I'd like to know what this lady did that were so bad here that she would never even consider doing them today. Why doesn't she write a story? I'm sure you leaving her has taught her a lesson, and she'll be a great partner to you going forward. God bless you both. And then finally, here's another one from a guy. He says, "Women like Julie are for recreational purposes only. And even so, you've got to be very careful." That's what I say. Anytime you're dating a woman with a child, you know what she really wants. So you're really, playing with fire there. You've got to be very careful. And what my philosophy is, I just avoid those women. Okay. That's me. There's other guys out there that don't, and they've had success. But my opinion is just avoid those women. He says, this guy continues on. He says, "You saw the real Julie last night. The rest of the time, she's been putting on an act. Think about it. This is what she would have been like if you were stupid enough to marry her. Shame about the poor kid. Having a disgusting mom like that must be tough." All right, so those are the responses. And now for the final update, we're going to see what happens in this situation. And this is from August of 2021. So a few months later, he says, "Hey, all, I've gotten a number of requests for an update, so I thought I'd come back and let you know where things stand. Julie and I are officially broken up." Okay, he stuck to his guns and he stayed broken up with her. Good job. The whole situation with her turned out to be one big lie. And wait till you hear about this here, folks. What a mess. I can't believe I was so damn gullible. Let me say, I've never talked to Julie in person or by phone since D-Day. We've only texted. He says, right after my last post, Julie continued texting me that nothing happened between her, Joe, and Jamie. Remember that. Nothing happened between Julie, Joe, and Jamie, so Julie says. She also had both Joe and Jamie call me and leave me messages saying they were all just friends and nothing more has ever occurred between them. They swore on their lives or others to this fact. So basically what he's saying is that they swore on their own lives and on others' lives to this fact. Remember that. Remember that as we go on in this story. Well, I've come to find out that wasn't true at all. I recently started taking an axe throwing class offered at a local pub. In my class was the single girl that rode to the wedding with us. Call her Jess. And he introduced Jess before, so I'm not sure why he put in this story, call her Jess. So he's reintroducing her. He says, after our first class, I asked Jess if she had time to have a drink and catch up, and she said yes. We were talking, and she was asking me the reason why I broke up with Julie, and I told her. The first thing Jess told me was that Julie, Jamie, and Joe were slamming shots at the wedding every time I stepped away to go to the bathroom or to get fresh air. So remember how he said he thought his girlfriend, this Julie, was only nursing a couple drinks at the wedding? Well, it turns out every time he stepped away, she, along with her two friends, her friend and her husband, were slamming shots. What a classy gal here. What she told me next rocked me to my core. Now listen to this. Jess said that Julie, Jamie, and Joe have been having threesomes on the regular for the past 2 years. She said she always thought I knew, as Julie told everyone we were polyamorous. Jess said this kinky relationship was known by all the workers at the restaurant, and that I could ask Jane or anyone else there and they would confirm the same. My first thought was, when did they have time to do it? Julie and I spent little time apart except when we were at work. Damn, what a fool I've been. Lesson learned. I'm now a much wiser and stronger person after all of this. As far as Julie being bi and polyamorous, if that's her thing, fine. But why did she have to screw me over? Why did she do it, Guy? Do you have to ask for sure? You can tell what she wanted. She wanted a nice guy to come in, to pay her bills, and be a pseudo father to her child. That's what she wanted. She really wasn't interested in you beyond that. Get it through your head. What a piece of garbage. It's strictly casual dating for me from now on. On that note, Jess and I just started an FWB, a Friends with Benefits. So now he's hooking up with this Jess. And it's been awesome so far. I'm sure it has. Julie doesn't know. She still calls or texts me every few days begging me to come back. I've never responded and never will, Jeff. So that's the story. And you can see right up front, this guy made mistake after mistake after mistake. But I have to say, once the mess, as he calls it, hit the fan, he took the appropriate action. He immediately moved out and he pretty much has ghosted her. And that's what I would have done as well, especially finding out all of the things he found out about her and what she's been doing with her friend and her friend's husband for the last 2 years. That is just disgusting. So those are my thoughts on this, folks. Let me know what you think about it. How do you think this guy did in this situation? Did he handle it appropriately, or, would you have handled it differently? Would you have given this woman another chance? Tell us about it in the comments. Also, remember to hit that like button, share this video with your friends, and please subscribe to this channel, and I will talk to you on the next